At 6 a.m., steam rose off my coffee mug and my patrol car hood when the woman across the street decided to start a war she couldn't possibly win. Her mistake? Calling the cops on the county sheriff. By the time she realized who she was messing with, I was already building the kind of case that ends with handcuffs, and not the fuzzy kind. At 6 a.m., steam rose off my coffee mug and my patrol car hood when the woman across the street decided to start a war she couldn't possibly win. Her mistake? Calling the cops on the county sheriff. By the time she realized who she was messing with, I was already building the kind of case that ends with handcuffs and not the fuzzy kind. The morning air had that sharp, clean smell that only exists before sunrise, dew on asphalt, sprinkler mist, and quiet. It's the kind of peace a cop learns to appreciate after years of chasing domestic calls and 2 a.m. bar fights. But peace has a short lifespan in Willow Creek Estates. That's when she arrived, marching across the street in yoga pants, clutching a clipboard like it was the Constitution. Her hair was pulled so tight it looked like it hurt to think. "Excuse me," she barked, the kind of voice that made you instinctively check your badge number. "This is a family neighborhood, not a police impound lot. You can't park that here!" She jabbed a manicured finger at my county-issued patrol SUV like it was radioactive. The county logo gleamed proudly in the morning light, but apparently to her, it was an eyesore violating the sacred aesthetic of beige suburbia. "Ma'am," I said evenly, still sipping my coffee, "this is my assigned vehicle. County protocol. I'm on call 24/7. Having it here actually makes your neighborhood safer." Her lips curled into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Safety, please. You think flashing your badge gives you special privileges? The HOA will not tolerate commercial vehicles cluttering up our streets." I almost laughed. "Commercial vehicles?" She said it like I was parking a taco truck in her driveway. "Ma'am, this vehicle belongs to the county sheriff's department." "Oh, I know who you are," she hissed. "And if you think that intimidates me, think again. I've already called the police." For a solid second, I just blinked at her. She'd called the police. On the police. "All right then," I said finally, setting my mug down on the hood. "Guess I'll wait here for myself to arrive." She spun on her heel and stormed off, heels clicking against the sidewalk like a ticking time bomb. I watched her march into her beige palace, blinds snapping shut behind her. My radio crackled softly on the hood. "Sheriff Hendricks, you're clear for patrol," dispatch said. "Copy that," I replied. But my day was already off script. By the time I got home that evening, a bright yellow envelope sat taped to my front door like a warning flag. HOA violation notice. Section 4.2.1, unauthorized commercial vehicle parking. Deadline, 72 hours. Failure to comply may result in fines or towing. I actually laughed out loud. The ink was still wet. This woman wasted zero time. That night, while my twin girls worked on their homework at the kitchen table, I read the violation letter under the soft glow of the pendant light. Emma and Sophie were 12, old enough to know that when Daddy got quiet, something was wrong. "Is the mean lady from across the street mad at you again?" Sophie asked. "Something like that," I said, forcing a smile. "But don't worry, sweetheart. I deal with people like her all the time. In my line of work, you learn to recognize patterns: abusers, manipulators, bullies. They all start small. A complaint, a warning, a boundary test. Then they escalate, feeding off control until someone stops them. Brenda, though I didn't know her name yet, fit the profile perfectly. After tucking the girls in, I sat on the porch with my laptop. Years of detective work had given me certain instincts and tools. Within minutes, I found her name at the bottom of the letter. Brenda Collier, HOA Compliance Chair. A quick public record search painted a story. Divorced. Real estate license expired. History of civil disputes with neighbors in 3 previous communities. Someone who needed to feel powerful. Someone who'd finally found a sandbox she could rule. As the crickets chirped and porch light buzzed, I sipped bourbon and watched her house across the street. The blinds flickered once and I could feel her watching back. I smiled. Every bully thinks they're untouchable until they pick the wrong target. And Brenda Collier? She had just declared war on the county sheriff. 3 days after Brenda taped that violation notice to my door, I came home from shift to find a certified letter waiting in my mailbox. Thick envelope, official HOA letterhead, and a signature that looked like it had been practiced in front of a mirror. Inside, formal notice of non-compliance. Deadline, 72 hours. CC, County Commissioner's Office, and get this, my own department chief. That's when I realized she wasn't just playing neighborhood politics. Brenda was trying to make this professional. The woman had done her homework. She'd looked up my position, found my superiors, and decided to go straight for my badge. For her, this wasn't about property values. This was about power. Most people in my position would have ignored it, maybe parked at the station for a few weeks until it blew over. But Brenda made the same mistake every small-time tyrant makes. She assumed the badge meant obedience, not knowledge. That night, while my daughters slept and the cicadas hummed outside, I opened my laptop and started reading. Not a police report this time, but the Willow Creek Estates HOA bylaws, all 147 pages of them. Halfway through Appendix B, I found what I was looking for. Emergency Services Exemption Clause. 12.4.3. Vehicles used by certified first responders shall be exempt from commercial parking restrictions within residential properties. I smiled. Legal gold. By morning, I had my response drafted. Clean, polite, professional. The kind of letter that looks harmless until it detonates in someone's inbox. I cited county code, state statute, and federal protection clauses for law enforcement personnel. I ended it with a line that made me smile as I sealed the envelope. Please ensure full review of governing documentation before issuing future correspondence of this nature. Translation. Next time, read the law before trying to weaponize it. I thought that would end it. I was wrong. Within 48 hours, Brenda went door to door like a suburban Paul Revere. Except instead of warning that the British were coming, she was warning about me, the dangerous sheriff who brought police violence into their neighborhood. She carried a petition, neatly typed, bullet-pointed, and dripping with fear tactics. Unsafe presence. Unprofessional conduct. Detrimental to community property values. By Friday afternoon, she had 8 signatures out of 45 houses. But you'd think she'd won a national election. That night, as I drove home, I saw her standing on her porch, arms folded, talking to 2 neighbors like she was the mayor of Crazy Town. Her voice carried down the street, each word sharpened for maximum damage. Authority figures shouldn't live above the rules, she said, loud enough for me to hear. We have to protect our children. I parked my patrol car in the driveway, slowly, deliberately. Her eyes followed me the entire time. Inside, I found another letter shoved under the door. Notice of pending fine. She'd declared open war. The next morning, I did what any lawman does when someone starts playing dirty. I started digging, using county access. I checked public records, property taxes, business filings. Within 10 minutes, I found something interesting. Collier Property Management, LLC, registered to one Brenda Collier. She wasn't just enforcing HOA rules, she was profiting from them. Her company billed the neighborhood for administrative oversight and compliance inspections. Every violation she issued, money in her pocket. And now she was manufacturing new ones. Me, my neighbors, anyone who didn't bow. I called Jennifer Reyes, the nurse 2 houses down, who'd waved me over once when Brenda scolded her for leaving chalk art on the sidewalk. She gave me a citation for that, Jennifer said when I brought it up. For my daughter's chalk drawings. Said it was unsightly public graffiti. That was all I needed to hear. Patterns like this didn't happen by accident. They happened by design. By Sunday night, I had a growing folder labeled Operation HOA Tyrant. Screenshots, photos, statements. Every neighbor she'd harassed, every letter she'd sent, every dollar she'd squeezed. When I closed the laptop, I caught my reflection in the screen. Tired eyes, calm jaw. The look I'd seen in the mirror before big arrests. This wasn't just neighborhood drama anymore. This was organized extortion disguised as community management. The next morning, as the sun rose and the neighborhood came alive, Brenda stood in her driveway, clipboard in hand, sipping from a monogrammed mug that said, "Boss Lady." I gave her a nod as I got into my patrol car. She smiled. So did I. Because by then, I already knew something she didn't. The sheriff she was trying to bully had just opened a case file, with her name on it. Some discoveries hit you like a whisper, quiet, unsettling, easy to ignore. Others hit like a flashbang grenade in a dark room. Brenda's secret hit like the latter. It was Thursday night. My daughters were asleep. The house was still, and the only sound was the hum of my laptop fan. I'd spent 3 hours combing through county records, property filings, and contractor invoices when I finally found what I'd been looking for. Collier Property Management, LLC, incorporated 3 years ago. Collier Landscaping Solutions, Collier Home Maintenance, all registered to the same address. Her address. It hit me immediately. She wasn't just enforcing the HOA. She was the HOA. The woman had built an entire ecosystem of companies designed to feed off her own neighborhood. She cited violations, recommended approved contractors, and those contractors turned out to be her. Every grass blade measured. Every trash can out too long. Every aesthetic violation she invented. It all funneled back to her bank account. I sat back in my chair, let out a low whistle and muttered, "Well, Brenda, you've been a busy little racketeer." I'd seen plenty of scams in my career, but this one had a special kind of arrogance. It was personalized fraud, wrapped in HOA letterhead and dressed up as community service. I started reaching out quietly to neighbors who'd mentioned getting letters. Maria Santos, the single mom who worked 2 jobs. The Kowalskis, retirees who'd lived here since the development opened. And Jennifer, the nurse who'd been my canary in the coal mine. One by one, their stories lined up perfectly. Each had received a citation followed by a recommended contractor list, with one name always appearing near the top. Collier Solutions. "She fined me $200 for my lawn edging," Maria said, handing me a stack of paperwork. Then she said her landscaping team could fix it for a small fee. I paid it just to make her stop. I flipped through the receipts. Same logo, same business account. "Maria," I said quietly, "that wasn't a small fee. That was extortion. By the weekend, my folder had turned into a case file, time-stamped, cataloged, bulletproof." But then came the real jackpot, buried deep in the county archives. I found the original Willow Creek Estates Development Agreement. It outlined a crucial clause. Upon completion of development or transfer of property management, control of the homeowners association shall pass to an elected board of residents within 90 days. Only that transfer never happened. The original developer had gone bankrupt in 2019, and the HOA was supposed to have transitioned to community control within 3 months. Instead, Brenda's company simply kept operating. No elections, no notices, no legitimacy. For 2 years, every fine, every rule, every dollar collected under her authority wasn't just immoral. It was illegal. I remember sitting there, the glow from the monitor casting shadows across the room, heart pounding like I'd just kicked in a door. Brenda Collier had built herself a suburban empire based entirely on fraud, and now she'd made the mistake of targeting a man whose job was investigating criminal enterprises. I couldn't help but laugh. A short, bitter sound that startled even me, because what she'd been calling compliance enforcement looked a hell of a lot like organized crime. That night, I drafted an email to a friend of mine, Detective Sarah Wren, White-Collar Crimes Division at the State Attorney's Office. I attached the first batch of documents, highlighted key financial links, and included my summary. Suspected fraudulent HOA governance, ongoing extortion, potential mail fraud. Estimated $150K in misappropriated funds. When I hit send, it felt like pulling a pin from a grenade. The next morning, the neighborhood woke to another one of Brenda's community updates. Printed newsletters slid into every mailbox. Warning: certain residents are attempting to undermine the integrity of our community through misinformation and harassment. We must remain united. I nearly spit out my coffee. She'd gone full propaganda. Later that afternoon, Jennifer called. "She's going door to door again," she whispered, "saying you're being investigated for abuse of authority. She even told Mrs. Patterson you're facing suspension." Perfect. That meant she was scared. And scared people make mistakes. By the weekend, I had confirmation from Sarah. The Attorney General's office had opened a preliminary investigation into Collier Property Management. They'd already flagged multiple financial irregularities and missing tax documentation. In law enforcement, that's what we call a trail of breadcrumbs. As I closed my laptop and stepped out onto the porch, the sky was streaked orange and violet. Across the street, Brenda stood by her mailbox, phone in hand, pretending not to notice me. She smiled, that smug little smile she wore like armor. I smiled back. Because while she was still playing HOA dictator, I'd just made her the subject of a state-level criminal investigation, and the best part? She didn't even know yet. By Monday morning, the air in Willow Creek Estates felt charged, like the atmosphere before a thunderstorm. The kind of tension you can smell. The kind you know ends in either rain or fire. Brenda chose fire. At 9 a.m., her latest stunt arrived in every resident's inbox, a polished, carefully worded email blast titled Community Safety Update. The subject line read like a public service announcement, but the content was pure theater. It has come to the HOA's attention that certain individuals, using their professional positions, have attempted to intimidate and discredit the board. We will not be bullied by those who misuse power. Attached were photos of my patrol car, taken from low angles that made it look like a military vehicle parked in a playground. Then came the line that made me snort my coffee. "We are considering a special assessment to fund our community's legal defense against harassment." Translation: Brenda was asking the neighborhood to pay for her lawyer to fight me. By noon, half the cul-de-sac was buzzing. Some neighbors looked away when I drove past. Others gave hesitant waves, the kind that say, "I'm with you, but I don't want her to know." By 3 p.m., a local news van was parked at the end of the street, Channel 7. I watched from my kitchen window as Brenda, draped in a tasteful navy blazer, delivered her performance for the camera. "She's good," I muttered, on screen. She was the picture of civic virtue, voice trembling just enough to sound victimized, eyes moist but not too wet, like she'd practiced the perfect level of moral outrage. "This officer has been intimidating homeowners, threatening families, and violating the rules he swore to uphold," she said. "We just want peace." It was propaganda at its finest, weaponized empathy. When the reporter asked for my comment, I gave one line. The sheriff's office does not comment on active investigations, because there was one, and she wasn't the investigator. That night, Jennifer and Maria showed up at my door, their faces tight with worry. "She's scaring people," Jennifer said. "Some of them really believe she can take their homes if they don't pay that assessment." "She told me she'd start foreclosure next month," Maria added, voice cracking. "Sheriff, I can't lose my house." I looked at both of them and felt something shift inside me. This wasn't just my fight anymore. It was my community's. "Then we end this," I said quietly. The next morning, I made 2 calls. First, to Detective Sarah Wren. Second, to Agent Thompson from the FBI's White-Collar Crimes Unit. Both had already reviewed the files I'd sent. Both were very interested. "Sheriff," Sarah said, "your HOA president is about to have a very bad week." By Thursday, the state's fraud division had filed subpoenas for Collier Property Management's financial records. Brenda didn't know it yet, but every email she'd ever sent, every dollar she'd ever funneled between accounts, was now evidence. Meanwhile, she doubled down. Friday morning, I woke to find 2 of my patrol car tires slashed and a thick scratch carved down the driver's side door. Box cutter by the look of it, real subtle. Mrs. Kowalski's doorbell camera caught the whole thing. A teenage boy, hood up, fumbling in the dark. I recognized him instantly, Evan Collier, Brenda's son. I didn't need a warrant for vandalism of government property. By 10 a.m., Evan was in juvenile intake, eyes red, hands shaking. When I walked out of the station, Brenda was waiting in the lobby, face flushed with fury. "You can't do this," she hissed. "He's a minor." "Then maybe his mother shouldn't have sent him to vandalize a police vehicle," I said evenly. "You raised him better than that, right?" Her jaw clenched. "You'll regret this, Sheriff." "No," I said. "You will." She stormed out, heels echoing off the tile. That afternoon, the county commissioner called me into her office. "Political pressure." "Marcus, this HOA situation is becoming a PR nightmare," she said. "Maybe take a few days off while we sort this out." "Commissioner," I replied, "the woman you're defending has committed mail fraud, wire fraud, and extortion. I'm not taking a vacation while she robs my community." The commissioner sighed. "Just keep it quiet until the election." By the weekend, Brenda was back on social media claiming I'd been suspended. Posts tagged with badge privilege and no one above the law. Each lie spreading faster than truth ever could. But while she was busy performing for her followers, state investigators were following the money. By Monday, they'd found over $300,000 in administrative fees and compliance fines funneled through her companies, none of which had ever been reported to the IRS. When Sarah called with the news, I could hear the smile in her voice. "Marcus," she said, "you might want to clear your schedule for Tuesday night." "Why?" I asked, though I already knew. "Because the FBI's attending your next HOA meeting," she said, "and not as guests." Tuesday night came with the electric stillness that hangs before a storm. Willow Creek Elementary's multipurpose room was packed, every folding chair filled, the walls lined with neighbors who'd finally had enough. You could taste the tension in the air, a mix of stale coffee, cheap perfume, and quiet fury. Brenda entered like a politician on election night. Navy blazer, hair shellacked into perfection, clipboard clutched like a scepter. She flashed her practiced smile at the crowd and tapped the mic. "Thank you all for coming," she began, voice syrupy and rehearsed. "Tonight we address ongoing threats to our community's peace and safety." I sat in the back row, uniform pressed, badge gleaming, arms folded. The FBI agents blended into the crowd, plain clothes, calm faces, eyes that missed nothing. Brenda's slideshow began. Photos of my patrol car, quotes ripped from context, charts she'd clearly invented in PowerPoint the night before. "Property values have dropped 15% since law enforcement began storing military-grade vehicles in residential areas," she declared. A murmur rippled through the crowd. "False," Dr. Kim called from the second row. "County records show values increased this year." Brenda faltered for a second, then smiled wider. "Let's stay civil, Doctor. We're discussing verified data." Jennifer Reyes stood next. "Verified by whom? You? The same woman who fined my kid for sidewalk chalk?" The room erupted, shouts, gasps, pent-up months of frustration spilling out all at once. Brenda slammed the gavel she'd brought from home. "Order, I will have order." That was my cue. I rose slowly, the chair legs scraping concrete with a sound that sliced through the noise. Every head turned. "Ma'am," I said evenly, "as both a homeowner and the county sheriff, I request to address the meeting." Her eyes flashed, but she forced a brittle smile. "Of course, Sheriff Hendricks. Briefly." I walked to the front, my boots echoing off the tile, and set a thick binder on the table. The sound was heavy, deliberate. "This," I said, "is the compiled evidence from a 6-month investigation into Collier Property Management and its subsidiaries." Her smile cracked. "These documents show that for over 2 years, this HOA has operated without legal authority. The original developer's bankruptcy in 2019 transferred control to homeowners within 90 days. No transfer occurred. Every fine, every assessment, every threat, illegal." The room went still. Even the fluorescents seemed to hum quieter. I turned another page. Bank statements prove that Collier Property Management, Collier Landscaping Solutions, and Collier Home Maintenance all share the same routing number, yours. "You've been fining residents? Then billing them again through companies you secretly own. Total amount collected, $312,428. Her voice wavered. "That's a ridiculous accusation." I raised a hand. "Not accusation, evidence." Right on cue, 2 agents stepped forward, badges flashing under the fluorescent lights. "Brenda Collier, Agent Thompson said. Voice calm but firm. You are under arrest for mail fraud, wire fraud, tax evasion, and racketeering under Title 18 of the United States Code. Gasps swept the room. Brenda froze, mouth open, clipboard slipping from her hand and clattering to the floor. Papers scattered like white leaves. "You can't do this!" she shouted as the cuffs clicked around her wrists. "I built this community." "No," I said quietly. "You sold it to yourself." The agents let her out while neighbors stared in stunned silence. The woman who'd terrorized them for years was suddenly small, fragile, ordinary. When the door shut behind her, the room exhaled. The first sound was Mrs. Patterson clapping. Then Dr. Kim, then everyone. The applause rolled through the cafeteria like thunder after lightning. I held up a hand. "Listen, we're not just tearing something down, we're rebuilding it. This HOA belongs to you now. Real elections, real transparency. No more fear." Maria Santos wiped tears from her cheeks. "You think we can really fix it?" "We already did," I said. "Tonight." Later back home, I tucked my daughters into bed. They'd seen the news. Brenda's arrest was already viral. Sophie looked up at me, eyes wide. "So the mean lady's going to jail?" "Looks that way," I said, smiling. Turns out bullies don't do well when the grown-ups start keeping receipts. They laughed, soft and tired. When they drifted off, I stepped onto the porch. The night air was cool, the street quiet for the first time in months. Across the road, Brenda's house sat dark, curtains drawn, mailbox empty. A for sale sign leaned against the porch. I took a long sip of coffee and let the silence settle. Sometimes justice isn't loud. Sometimes it's just the sound of peace returning to a neighborhood that forgot what it felt like. And somewhere in the distance, a sprinkler started up, misting the lawns she once ruled. The kingdom of clipboards had fallen.